And today we're going to talk about cannabis and cuffing season because it is indeed cuffing season. I know this because all my single friends are in they're in the cuff. They're in the cuff store. They're looking for some cuffs. What in the world does CBD have to do with cuffing season? And is there a support that people can use to incorporate into their cuffing season pursuits? I will just also happily say preemptively, I have been cuffed for the past 20 years. I am not in the cuffing season. So I'll be engaging in this conversation as an observer and not a participant. Go ahead, Dr. Damas. What do these things have to do with each other?
I do like the fact that you've given us a disclaimer,
Yeah.
prior to absolve yourself of any.
So I can
Please
freely
refer to my
contribute to the conversation
please
without y'all
refer to
thinking it's
my
me.
please refer to my comments prior to the
Yes.
segment. Right.
Yes.
So I'm gonna give it to you in my cuffing registered.
Oh
Jeez.
Lord. Your whole voice changed. It's like, let
So
me give it to you.
cuffing, yeah. Hello.
Stupid.
So, cuffing season, right? So that's a new term for me. I'm Generation X,
Oh.
but it's basically something that we kind of uh, observed back in the day. Like things get colder, wintertime, you got to find somebody to kind of cuddle up with, to spend a lonely, cold, dark nights with, right?
Mm.
So the first time I would say I was introduced to that concept was when I was in Buffalo, when I got to Buffalo, and everybody was like,
Oh,
Buffalo,
it's
ain't nothing
cold.
to do here. I remember that
Ain't
there are
nothing to do but
people,
cuff.
yeah, ain't nothing to do but eat chicken wings and like, hole up with a shorty. And I was like, what? They're like, there is nothing to do here. And the winter's gonna be cold. And so that's been a phenomenon like through the ages, right? And
Mm.
there's some scientific relevance to that because of what happens to us as it gets colder. The nights get longer, it's darker, our moods change. There's literally the need for warmth, right? So there's literally that need.
Yeah.
Think about like before we had the ability to like have artificial heating and heat ourselves. So it's literally the need to have a body next to you to stay warm. But it also the cuffing, the holding on to somebody, the being intimate with somebody, the interpersonal connection does a lot of really good things for our mental health and our physical health. So
Yeah.
that's why you see people may have this like kind of unconscious or subconscious desire to find someone to be with during this time of the year.
Mm. So it feels very early human, like a survival skill, if you will, because you don't want to be navigating the nomadic pathways by yourself with the dinosaurs coming. It feels very much like it's something tied to our early phases as humanity. And you've talked with us before about seasonal affective disorder, the winter blues, and some of these things. And one of the things that you have said is that there is a spike in births during the summertime, which is directly in alignment with the cuffing season activities of the winter time. It's not a hard and fast rule, but there is some sort of a correlation. So that physical intimacy, it does allow for people to have a sense of closeness. And you've talked to us before about the endorphins that get released. Give us a little sense as to how CBD can support in this effort. And are there some of us that benefit more from this than others? Because there's
Yeah.
always a discrepancy.
So there's always, right, there's always that part of it. And so these endorphins that you release, right, we're talking about serotonin, dopamine. We're also talking about hormones like oxytocin, which kind of like make you feel like really happy. It's like the love hormone, which is
Right.
oxytocin. And that happens as a result of physical touch. Hugging causes a so just the hugging aspect causes you to feel good, right? Everybody knows like if you have a good long hug with somebody that you care about or you want to, it makes you feel much better.
Yeah.
These things are directly related to your overall sense of well-being and mental health, right? So
Mm.
that means they can help you fight feelings of loneliness, depression, anxiety, all those things. Sometimes you hear people say, I feel better when I'm with my person, right? Or yeah,
Right.
I've had right. And so
Yep.
so that's not like a crazy, thing that people are making up in their head. There's really scientific, reasons for this stuff. And when we look at CBD and cannabis, the first thing that we want to start with is the endocannabinoid system. Again, this is something that a lot of us don't know about. It was discovered in the 80s as part of Reagan's war on drugs when him and Nancy were funding studies to prove how bad weed was. And
Mm.
during this discovery process, they realized that our body actually produces this stuff, right? So
Mm,
before then, we didn't know that our body produces these cannabinoids, right?
right.
It was like
Right.
we're trying to prove that this stuff is horrible for you, and then it's like, whoa, our body makes it itself, so it can't be that bad. And so there's been more research on that, on your endocannabinoid system and how it affects your body. It affects your sleep cycle, right? So it's the winter. I mean, our sleep cycles are really messed up because not only is it entering the winter when naturally the days are shorter, but then we do this crazy stuff with the daylight savings time, and
Right.
so right, which
Right.
further throws us off, right? And then we have like we have unfortunately we have the side effects or the byproducts of capitalism, which are like
Come on.
stress, anxiety,
Anti-cuff.
anti those are
Capitalism is anti-cuff.
yeah, exactly, right. And so those things make it really hard to exist in a natural state where you kind of have a rhythm with the world and a rhythm with your partner and a rhythm with the environment. So you get out of that rhythm, you become like an insomniac, right? Or you become anxious, or you become depressed. And so the endocannabinoid system helps regulate all of that stuff. And
Mm,
then when you consume CBD or weed, you have impacts on your endocannabinoid system. For example, CBD doesn't necessarily make you feel high, but it elevates or keeps the stuff that your brain makes in
right.
your nervous system longer, right? So it is not producing more of it, it's just making it more available for you. So that means it's
Wow.
easier for you to be happy. It's easier for you to relax. It's easier for you to go to sleep.
Yeah.
Whereas weed itself mimics what your body makes, right? Weed, your body makes a cannabinoid called anandamide, which we've talked about in the past, which is
Yep.
called the bliss molecule.
Yep.
That makes you feel happy. When you are fully cuffed and you're in a post-cuffing, state of mind, right? That feeling of bliss that you have,
Post
right?
cuff.
Right? That feeling of bliss where you're like, whoa, I feel great. That's anandamide. That's a whole, your body's releasing a whole slew of that. And you feel kind of like, whoa, right? I'm on cloud nine, I'm on a high, but you haven't consumed anything. That's your body's endocannabinoid system. So
Mm.
weed, like THC, can mimic that. It can augment that. CBD keeps that lasting longer.
And now
So
for people who are new to this concept of this segment, you've explained before, and I want to make sure that we repeat this and then hopefully I repeat it correctly. The THC side of the cannabis plant is the side that gets us high. And it does so many other things as well. The CBD side doesn't get us high, but it does all the other things that the THC side does except the get you high part. Did I say that correctly?
yes, you're perfect,
Okay.
perfect,
Okay.
perfect.
Good. Good, good.
Yeah. I
So
like
if
it. I like
yeah,
this.
you know, I
You're
be
an
listening.
expert
I
at it.
take
Let me
notes.
find out.
We
Let me
key,
find
but I
out.
take notes. I take notes. So if I were not cuffed and I was approaching cuffing season, what ways could I incorporate CBD in my cuffing season pursuits that would allow me the benefits of all this while keeping my mind clear so that I
Yeah.
could cuff clearly and make good cuffing decisions? There ain't nothing worse than a cuffing season when you done miscuffed.
Yes.
A
Yes.
miscuff, from what I've heard, having never
It's
had to
terrible.
experience this, from what I understand, the miscuff is a terrible thing because cuffing season can last a little while. And then if
Yeah.
you have a cuffing season that produces a pregnancy in the summer, you might have miscuffed for life.
For a
So how do I
generational miscovery.
generational miscuffage? It's like a generational curse. You gotta cleanse the aura. How can people incorporate CBD in this season in a way that's going to allow them to maintain some sanity and
Uh-huh.
warmth?
So I like the fact that you mentioned yourself personally with the disclaimer because you are in the demographic that's very important in how
Oh,
this affects, right?
okay.
So when we look at like the need for this, right, to partner up,
Mm,
so for those who are just joining us, with cuffing season is the time of the year where people look to partner up to kind of like ride out the winter together, to be closer, to do all these things, right? When we look at like who does that benefit a lot, and you said some of it earlier, it dates back to a kind of like, your primitive needs, right?
mm,
Women, right? So it's
yeah.
really important for women they benefit more than anyone else with this finding a partner. So
Now, wait, is that because of biology or because socially like, I want you to go fight the dinosaur. I don't really want to fight.
Yeah,
I mean, I
you want
could, but I'd rather my cuffer
to
go fight
go
the
out there.
dinosaur. Like, let me go.
Exactly. So I think there's a combination of
Okay.
both, right? In terms of like physical build, when you look at primitive persons who's more built to withstand the rigors of nature and
Mm,
go do some of that work, right? Who's got more musculature, who's got more physical resilience to do that kind of stuff, right? To go
right.
out and like brave the hardships. And
Right.
also, there's also like what you mentioned is the fact that, yeah, the cuffing can produce an offspring, right? And so that person that is doing the, that is carrying the offspring can't be out in the wild
The
doing,
post-cuffing labor,
yeah, doing that kind of
literally and
stuff.
metaphorically.
But then,
Oh, I be loving the puns we insert in these
yeah,
conversations. The post-cuffing
oh,
labor of
the
carrying
post
the
of you like
cuffed.
that. Listen, she's not only an attorney, right? But she'll be here all week. Make sure you tip your servers. So, so they found that there was a 36% reduction in stress levels for women who
What?
partnered up with someone during these times than
Wow.
someone who was alone, right? And so obviously, again, we live in a capitalistic society. There's the benefits of having additional financial resources.
Right.
There's benefits of feeling secure, safety, right? It's wild outside, right? So
Mm.
having someone there who's kind of like with you, can give a hand, protect, and those kind of things, help around. And then again, there's literally the scientific aspects of it where you get these release of hormones and endorphins that are good for your mental health. And then of course, like we always say, sisters, say particularly sisters, we found that like sisters benefit even more from
Well,
that.
now there's some pushback in the Nubia chat. Somebody said, I thought homeless men benefited more, or I've been told that there is a hobo class,
There's a whole
to
class.
where I'm hearing the benefits for the women, but it's several of the men folk who cuff out of needing to have home. And that is a point that just got raised in the Nubia
That
chat.
is,
There's a whole,
that is very important. That is very, very, very possible. Right?
yeah,
This is something that
yeah.
happens.
I've seen it.
Therein lies the importance of judiciously cuffing, right? You
That's
can't be
right.
out there
Cuff with a
wantonly
clear
cuffing,
mind.
yeah,
That's right.
you can't be out there wantingly cuffing, right?
Can't be Chris cuffing all over the damn place. You got
Yeah,
to cuff
right.
with some attention.
You gotta cuff properly, right? Because these hobos are not forcing themselves on you.
That's right.
But
They
you're
were
inviting,
cuffed.
yeah,
You
you're
invited
inviting
them to
them.
the cuffing center, and
Yeah.
they obliged. And
They
then
said,
spring
yeah, sure.
came, and they went
And then
out because the
they
dinosaurs
went
went
the
away.
nomads. They went out and started planting seeds in other places, right?
Somebody
But
said,
for
get a toy
sisters,
store and a weighted blanket. Said, get you some CBD, a toy store, and a weighted blanket. God, I love the Nubians.
the weighted blanket can simulate.
Yes.
Yeah, but it's not gonna give you that release of
It's a
a
faux
man
cuff
blanket.
device. The
Yeah,
weighted blanket is a faux
it's a
cuff
folk.
device. We should take
So
this show on the road.
exactly. So for sisters, we've talked about how the society has, a more detrimental effects. So things that happen for
Yeah.
sisters feel a little bit more. So in terms of the depression, the anxiety, um, they feel a little bit more. And so partnering up for sisters during this time makes an even bigger difference because of how society has impacted the mental and physical health through a bunch of ways, right? Not
Yeah.
only like,
Yeah.
institutional things, right?
Yep.
But, generational things that have happened. And so this is really important. If you are going to be cuffing or finding somebody, that you find a good mate, and then
That's right.
you allow yourself to be receptive to it. So the CBD can help you in terms of decreasing anxiety, help you be a
Mm.
little bit more clear-headed so you don't take on any hobos,
That's right.
right? Find
That's
yourself
right.
a good man, Savannah, a good man,
It's a good
right?
man.
Yeah, right. So, right. And so the CBD will help you in terms of anxiety,
Mm.
stress. And then if you decide to fully couple, right, to fully cuff, right, there's ways that it can enhance that in terms
Mm.
of pleasure, in terms of receptiveness. And so we're talking about tinctures, we're talking about smoking if you want. I'm not a big smoker. And of course, my favorite is the intimate oil. So that's a
Oh,
big,
that's
and then
right.
we have we actually have a lot of people from that call in from the show that are like, yo, that oil is the bomb. And I'm like, good, that's why I made it. I literally made it because people have been saying, with everything that goes on in life, literally, where everything just from mental health to physical health, like that aspect of life becomes a little bit more troublesome as you move along through your journey. So anything that you can do to kind of help it, to kind of facilitate it, to make it a better experience, because that's really important. Like I said, in your post-cuffing state of mind, your body releases a lot of hormones and neurotransmitters that are really good for your mental health. And everybody knows that. And so if you're missing out on that, then obviously your overall health and well-being is diminished. Right? So the indigo oil allows you to participate, to cuff. Don't cuff with no hobos, right? And this is my disclaimer. Dr. Damas has given you his professional advice. I do not recommend
No hobo cuffing.
doing hobos, right?